Adventist History CarTalks number 11 with Pastor Kevin Morgan.
I'd like to tell you about my friend, Marcella Anderson King. I just got word that she passed away just this past month. I got a notice from her daughter Elsa over in Oregon. And Marcy was a dear lady, a very sweet lady, very intelligent, very careful in her work, methodical, a person who could relate to people of different kinds. When she came to our area, in fact, she was in the Warrensville church, and as we moved here, she was not only a member of the Warrensville church, but she attended the local Methodist church as well. And for many years after she moved to Oregon, after she got married to Mr. King, the ladies at the Methodist church, when they would see me, would ask about her. So she's a very dear lady. And it was through her, as I was wondering about the process of what had changed Adventist self-image, that I began to think about the subject of plagiarism. This is how I got started. And I was sharing my thoughts with Marcy, and she said, well, I've got a manuscript I haven't gotten anybody to edit on that very subject. I said, really? And then it all came out that she had been the secretary for Dr. Fred Veltman in the 1980s as they were studying the life of Christ, comparing Desire of Ages with other authors on the same subject to see what Ellen White may have borrowed from these different authors. And as I said, she was a very careful and methodical person, and she was in charge of collating the materials, the responses from the volunteer workers. The first 2 years of the program was covered by conference funding, but after that, Dr. Veltman wanted to continue, and so as a result, he covered it while he played his role as the chairman of the department at PUC. He was the one who had volunteered to respond to Walter Ray's concerns about Ellen White's literary borrowing. Marcy introduced us. We went over to his house in Fletcher, North Carolina, where he had moved in retirement, and we were able to exchange notes about the work, and I received some very valuable suggestions from him about how to approach things. He said there's nothing to be gained by treating critics in an ill way. And I said, yeah, I believe in that too. And so we responded thoughtfully on the subject. And he asked me some questions about my own research. He said, did you find any evidence that Marion Davis incorporated thought gems directly from one of the other authors into Desire of Ages? And I could tell him that I had not. In every case, it was either in a manuscript or a letter where Ellen White had found just the right way of making a point using some language from another author. And then that had been condensed as Marion did what Ellen White said. She gathered and arranged the materials on the framework of Spirit of Prophecy, which she was updating. So Marcy was in charge of coordinating the volunteers, and it's quite a list of people, interesting people, who would compare the works that were thought possible or probable sources. And
a lot of talk about devotion. She said she carried her work everywhere she went for that period of time. She was always working on something. Even if they went to a program, or even a dinner, she'd have her to work with her. So, let's remember Marcy and Dr. Veltman and the volunteers. Many of them are no longer with us too, for the work that they put into the devotion to try to understand the process. But I will always remember that time with Marcy fondly. I'm sorry to hear that she's passed away, but she was a great blessing to many people, and we won't forget it.